Good day, everyone. I am Ella B. Sarsha from Bitalad 1A, one of the discussants for today's topic, climate change and energy crisis. So we have here 7 objectives for the flow of our discussion. First, state what is climate change and energy crisis. Second, explain how climate change has affected the Philippines. Third one, list causes and effects of climate change on the society, followed by illustrate how can a community helps in mitigating the hazard caused by climate change. The fifth one is cite the possible solutions to the energy crisis. And last but not the least, adhere the significance of maintaining a healthy environment in the society.
So, good day to each and everyone. I am Marisol Macawil Recto from BT A1. So, I will discuss about climate change and energy crisis. So, climate change refers to a long-term shift in temperature and weather patterns. This shift may be natural, but since the 1800s, human activities have been the main driver of climate change. So, primarily due to burning of fossil fuel, example, coal, oil, and gases, which produce heat-trapping gases. So, sinasabi dito na ang pagbabago ng klima ay tumutukoy sa pangmatagalang pagbabago ng temperatura at hakbang ng mga panahon. Maaring ito ay natural, ngunit mula noong 1800 or 1800s, ang mga aktibidad ng tao ay naging pangunahing dahilan ng pagbago ng klima, halimbawa pagkasunog ng mga fossil fuel na naging sanhi ng pagka-trap ng mga gases o init sa kalawakan. So that is climate change, means pagbabago ng panahon or klima. So let's go to energy crisis. Energy crisis is shortage in the power supply. It is the most problem that the world faces nowadays. It could be oil crisis, electricity crisis, and fuel crisis. So, ang energy crisis naman ay kakulangan or shortage ng mga supply ng kuryente. Ito rin ang karaniwang problemang kinakaharap sa mundo ngayon. Maaring ito ay kakulangan sa langis at gasolina. So, climate change and energy crashes are normal nowadays, I think, but we can avoid this by protecting our environment. So, since we're talking about environment, home is our environment, isn't it? So, we must protect it because if it's not healthy, we people who live there is not healthy either. So, kung ang tubig ay madumi, puno ng usok, ang hangin at ibang mga kemikal na nakakasira ng ating environment, maaari tayong mga tao, mga hayop at mga maging halaman ay pwedeng makuha ang mga bagay na makakaapekto sa ating kalusugan. So, the quality of our environment affects no matter where we live. So, let us protect and avoid those things that can lead to harmful and unhealthy lifestyle. So, that will be all of my discussion. So, again, I am Marisol Macawil Recta of BTLED A1.
Okay, so now we are going to discuss the topic that is how climate change affect or makes an impact in the Philippines. Okay, let's begin. Climate change in the Philippines is having serious impacts such as increased frequency and severity of natural disasters, sea level rise, extreme rainfall, resource shortage, and environmental degradation. So that means that Philippines in the past has been ravaged by natural disasters such as the following that has been mentioned, but this time since climate change has been around and also a very long time, it has increased its strength. So in other words, the storm became very strong. The landslides become too frequent on highlands. So every major disaster has been increased of its frequency and many other effects take. So all of these impacts together have greatly affected the Philippine agriculture. So that means our brothers that are in charge in farming is very, very affected by these natural phenomenons. Not only that, we only have water, infrastructure, human health, which is the lives of our countrymen, and coastal ecosystems, and they are projected to continue having devastating damage to the economy and society of the Philippines. So, this all in all summarizes the overall effect of every disaster or natural phenomenon that has taken up a notch in the Philippines. It destroys our lifestyle and our economy. According to the UN for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs or OCHA, the Philippines is one of the most disaster prone countries in the world. So let's consider the location of the Philippines, which is on the brink of Pacific Rim, which is on the side of the Pacific Ocean, and then it's surrounded by a ring of volcanoes around the Pacific Ocean. So the archipelago of 7,109 islands is situated along the Pacific Ocean's Typhoon belt, or in other words, it's a place where all storms land. Like they come from, of course, they come from the Pacific Ocean because that's where mostly storms common are much common. So leaving the country vulnerable to an average of 20 typhoons every year, five of which are destructive. So it let's add up some Typhoon Yolanda in there. In addition to the Philippines is also located within the Pacific Ring of Fire, which makes the country prone to frequent earthquakes and volcanic eruption. Compounding these issues, the impacts of climate change, such as accelerated sea level rise, exacerbate the state's high susceptibility to natural disasters. So that means that Philippines is a major place that is prone to natural disasters, which also include very natural phenomenon, which also includes flooding, landslide, etc., etc. So
The causes and effects of climate change on the society. On this first image, this was the first primary cause of climate change, named greenhouse gas emission. Some gases in the Earth's atmosphere act a bit like the glass in a greenhouse, trapping the sun's heat and stopping it from leaking back into space and causing global warming. The largest source of greenhouse gas emissions from human activities in the United States is from burning fossil fuels for electricity, heat, and transportation. Some gases in the Earth's atmosphere act like greenhouse gas, trapping the sun's heat and preventing it from escaping into space and causing global warming. Some sunlight that hits Earth is reflected back into space, where the rest becomes heat. Greenhouse gases prevent heat from escaping into space, warming the planet. Causes of climate change, natural causes, volcanic eruptions, because most of the particles spewed from volcanoes cool the planet by shading incoming solar radiation. Which volcano erupts is not something that we can control, but as the atmosphere warms due to climate change, the plumes of ash and gas emitted by large, but frequent volcanic eruptions will rise ever higher. The second one was the ocean currents. Ocean currents act much like a conveyor belt, transporting from water and precipitation from the equator toward the poles and cold water from the poles back to the tropics. Earth orbit changing is the last one. Earth orbit is strict, meaning it has changed repeatedly over time. The measure of a shape's deviation from being a circle in the case the Earth's orbit is called eccentricity. The tilt in the axis of the Earth is called its obliquity. This angle changes with time and over about 41,000 years. It moves from 22.1 degree to 24.5 degree and back again. Solar variation. The resulting imbalance between incoming solar radiation and outgoing thermal radiation will likely cause Earth to heat up over the next century. Human causes. Deforestation. The loss of trees and other vegetation can cause climate change. Desertification and soil erosion, fewer crops, flooding, increased greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, and a host of problems for indigenous people. Coal mining. Coal mining is the process of extracting coal from the ground. The second one is the burning of fossil fuels. They release nitrogen oxides into the atmosphere, which contribute to the formation of smog and acid rain. The third one is industrial process. Are produced involving chemical, physical, electrical, or mechanical steps to aid in the manufacturing of an item or items, usually carried out in a very large scale. Agriculture. Urban development, tree and vegetation, removal, forestry, logging, including access roads, herbicide spraying, and maintaining active. Effects of climate change. Effects of climate change: rise in a sea level. The first one is the rise in a sea level. What happens when sea level rises? Sea level rise poses a serious threat to coastal life around the world. The second one is the heavy rainfall across the globe. One reason for heavy precipitation is the development of low-pressure systems. Warmer oceans increase the amount of water that evaporates into the air. Laden air moves over land or converges. Extreme drought. Examples of drought impacts on society include anxiety or depression about economic losses, conflicts when there is not enough water, decline in crop productivity. Negative impacts of global warming include reduced crop quantity and quality due to the reduced growth period. The second one is ecosystems are changing. In general, ecosystem reacts to change in ways that maintain or restore balance to the ecosystem. The third one is hurricanes. Hurricanes are one of nature's most powerful storms. They produce strong winds, storm surge, flooding, and heavy rainfall that can lead to inland flooding, tornado, and rise in temperature. Rise in temperature. Higher temperatures are worsening many types of disaster, including storms, heat waves, floods, and droughts. The last one is carbon dioxide acidifies seawater. How does carbon dioxide affect ocean acidification? It was occurring because excess carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is being absorbed at the surface of the ocean at an increased rate.
Mitigation or mitigation hazard. Describe actions taken to help reduce or eliminate long-term risk caused by hazard or disaster, such as flooding, earthquakes, wildfires, landslide, or dam failure. Sabi po dito, hazard mitigation, ito ay naglalarawan ng mga aksyon na ginagawa upang mas makatulong na mabawasan at mapadali ang mga panganib na dulot ng sakuna, tulad ng pagbaha, paglindol, pagkasunog at pagguho ng lupa, at maging ang dam failure. As the cost of disasters continue to rise, government and citizens must find ways to reduce hazard risk to our communities. Siyempre po, sa patuloy na pagtaas or pagdami ng mga sakunang kinakaharap ng isang komunidad, kailangan po ng tulong na magtulong-tulong ang gobyerno at mga mamamayan na magkaisa para masolusyonan kung ano man yung sakunang kinakaharap ng kanilang komunidad. So, as the communities plan for new development and improvements to existing infrastructure, mitigating should be an important component of the planning effort. Siyempre po sa gagawin nilang plano at pagtutulong-tulong na masolusyonan ang sakunang kinakaharap ng komunidad nila, kailangan unang-una at importante ang pagkaroon ng mitigating or pagkakaisa ng aksyon para mas mapadali at mas makatulong na masolusyonan ang sakunang kinakaharap ng kanilang komunidad. While mitigation activities or mitigation strategies can and should be taken before a disaster occurs, hazard mitigation is essential after a disaster. Oftentimes, after disaster, repairs and reconstruction are completed in such a way as to simply restore damaged property to pre-disaster conditions. So, ang mitigation activities or mitigation disasters daw po ay maari at dapat lang gawin bago mangyari ang isang sakuna, at ang pagbabawas ng panganib or hazard mitigation ay gagawin pagkatapos ng isang sakuna. Kadalasan rin po pagkatapos ng mga sakuna, ang mga pagkukumpuni at muling pagtatayo ay nakumpleto sa paraang maibabalik lamang ang mga nasirang ari-arian sa mga kondisyon bago ang sakuna. So this effort may get the community back to normal, but the replication of the pre-disaster condition may result in repetitive cycle of damage, reconstruction, and repeated damage. So, ito daw pong sa pagkukumpuni daw nila at sa effort na ginagawa po nila, maibabalik po nila yung lagay dati ng komunidad. Pero ang disadvantage po nito, paulit-ulit lang po itong masisira. Kasi kung dati po nasira ng isang sakuna ang kanilang komunidad or tahanan sa isang komunidad, maaari pong maulit yun kung ibabalik lang nila kung ano yung lagay ng dating tahanan nila. So, this recurrent reconstruction becomes more expensive as the years goes by. Hazard mitigation breaks this repetitive cycle by taking a long-term view of rebuilding and recovering following disaster. So, yung hazard mitigation daw po, ito yung isang reason para ma-break po kung ano yung mindset or ano yung nangyayari dati. So, yung pag-rebuild po ulit ng komunidad nila sa dating lagay is nabago po. Pero, ang disadvantage po nito, yung mga material, for example, yung mga materials pong gagamitin nila sa pag-rebuild or pag-aayos ng pag-uulit ng pagkukumpuni sa kanilang komunidad, nagmamahal. Pero, ang advantage po nito sa paggamit nila ng mga materials ng mga mahal, years goes by, may advantage naman po yun kasi mas safe po and mas nakakasiguro po sila na walang masasaktan kung may darating man in the near future po ng sakuna or mga sakunang darating man. Mas safe po sila at mag-ensure po sila na walang masasaktan sa kanilang pamilya or sa komunidad kasi doon pa lang po sa hazard mitigation na na-break po yung repetitive cycle na ginagawa nila ng paulit-ulit. Doon pa lang po nakakasiguro na po sila na mas matibay at mas safe po yung mga infrastructure na ibibuild po ulit nila sa kanilang komunidad. So, sabi pa po sa survey, about 1.4 billion people around the world rely on traditional fuels like coal and wood to meet their basic energy needs. So, hindi po lahat ng tao nabibili or kayang bilhin kung ano man po yung mga bagay na kailangan po sa isang tahanan or sa isang komunidad. Kaya karamihan pa rin po sa mga tao, for example, ito po yung paggamit rin ng mga panggatong or mga uling po sa pagluluto. Kasi po, ayun lang po yung kaya ng kanilang pera or kaya ng kanilang pamumuhay. So, this is not only harmful to the environment, it can also lead to premature deaths of millions of people, especially women and children. So, dito po sa paggamit rin po pala ng coal and wood na patuloy na paggamit, hindi lang po yung kalikasan yung nasisira. Pwede rin po in the near future po, makasira rin po sila na magiging cause po ng pagkamatay ng mga premature or mga babae at mga bata. So, by 2035, global energy demand is projected to grow by more than 50% and even faster in developing countries. All these new consumers need clean energy that will not hurt them or the environment. Sa expected po, by 2035 po, nawab daw po na 50% ng mga consumers ay mag-transfer na po sa mga demand project na kanilang gagamitin para po in the near future in 2035 yung mga consumers or yung mga women or children kahit yung mga premature is magkaroon ng clean energy na makakasiguro na hindi makakasira sa environment maging sa mga kapwa-tao.
Understanding the energy crisis and possible solution to the energy crisis. Energy crisis is shortage in the power supplies. It is the most common problems that the world faces nowadays. It could be oil crisis, electricity crisis, and fuel crisis. One of the main causes is the needs and demands of the ever-growing population for more energy resources. One of the best ways to lower the world's reliance on non-renewable power sources, oil, coal, and gas. One of the best sustainable energy solutions is to turn renewable sources like the sun, solar panel, wind, water, and steam. This renewable energy solution is the best one because there is no emission of greenhouse gases. Pollution is minimal and it is significantly cheaper to use hydropower biomass energy wind energy and power of the sun. Moreover, it is necessary to understand how humans currently consume energy and how that impacts the climate, then make appropriate decisions to minimize that impact. For example, while cooking food, use solar cooker, pressure cooker, and etc. We should use bicycle for local uses as possible. Make the public aware about proper use of electricity. Turn off the switches of the used appliances after the use is over.
Good day everyone, I am Nikki Angel B. Nabras and I will discuss the significance of maintaining a healthy environment in this society. Environment is a place where humans as well as plants and animals live. It is necessary to keep our environment clean because we get fresh air, reduce pollution, etc. An unclean environment leads to a bad condition of a society, arrival of diseases and many more related problems. So, because our environment has a large impact on our health and well-being, an important part of living well is doing our part to take care of the environment. So, pwede tayong magtulungan as proactive communities to foster a safe, happy, and healthy world for years to come. To keep environment clean, a healthy and balanced natural systems are essential for adapting and supporting life on this planet. Society relies on nature to provide us with the resources for our survival, which includes air, water, food, fibers, medicines, and building materials. Children need to grow up with an awareness of the nature around them. As human beings, we have a responsibility to preserve the actual value of nature both for ourselves and for the future generations too. Therefore, it is the collective responsibility of every human to clean the environment and protect the planet from further environmental degradation. It is time to become responsible citizens and maintain sustainable waste practices such as recycling, reusing, and reducing waste wherever possible. So, kailangan nating maging responsable sa mga actions natin with regards to the environment para sa ating sarili at sa darating na henerasyon. So, that's all and thank you.